And welcome to First Draft. It is the first Tuesday of November, and I am hosting this month. I'm Alexis Ann, and we are talking about finding your support system as a writer. An always difficult and interesting topic, and pretty much one of the most important things I think I get asked at every conference and meeting that I go to, so I'm really excited to talk about it tonight. We have a special guest, MM Finnick, who's we're going to call Peggy tonight, so we don't have to call her MM all night long. And I'm really excited to talk about this. So we're going to go around the room and introduce everybody real quick. And if you have a drink that you want to also introduce with you, go ahead and do that. We'll start with Mary Chris.
Hi, I'm Mary Chris Escobar. Thanks for joining us tonight. And if you caught our post leading up to this, in penance, I guess, to my co-host, who I made drink pumpkin beer, which they hate, last month. Well, they didn't really actually drink pumpkin beer, but they talked about pumpkin beer enthusiastically, even though they hate it. So this month we are drinking their favorite drink, which is bourbon and or whiskey. So I have the Reservoir bourbon, which is a local bourbon here in Richmond, where I'm from. So cheers.
And Miss Peggy, who is joining us tonight.
Hello. I'm drinking wine because I can't drink bourbon, although I think I have more bourbon in my house than anybody else in all of Richmond because my husband is a huge, huge bourbon guy. In fact, he is a member of the Maker's Mark club, and he went to Maker's Mark Factory, and every year they send us Christmas presents, like sweaters that go over the Maker's Mark bottle, coasters that look like the Maker's Mark wax seal. A lot of bourbon is in my house, but I just can't drink it. But I'm very excited to drink wine, which I do regularly. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and
and we also have Julia joining us in just a moment. Mary Chris, if you could check your text message and send Julia the link real quick. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I will do that. And I remembered we forgot in our introductions, we're so excited about our bourbon and wine, to mention what we write.
Thank you.
Yes. So I write women's fiction, and I'll let you guys go with that while I send Julia the link.
And what do you write, Peggy?
I also write women's fiction. So I started out thinking that I was writing literary or upmarket women's fiction, but I think as I'm 4 novels in, and I actually think that I am more commercial, just straight up commercial women's fiction, and I really like it. I really like it. I still like having lyrical language, but I like, being with everyday people, dealing with everyday things, ending in a hopeful way. So that's what I write.
That's awesome. I really enjoy reading that kind of stuff too. So exciting stuff. And I am Alexis Ann. I'm hosting tonight, so please forgive me for my sins just in advance. I write contemporary and erotic romance. You can find me at alexisannbooks.com, and I just finished the last volume in my Tempt serial last week. The box set went live today, and I'll have paperback information coming out later this week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, so tonight we're talking about finding your support system as a writer. It was probably one of the biggest obstacles for me as I got started in this crazy and wonderful world of publishing. Was it easy for you guys? Did you fall into your groups, or did it take a while to find the people that you work with? Peggy, you want to start us off?
Sure, yeah. Well, okay. I would say it definitely took me a while because I didn't even know where to find them.
Yes.
And so it was I felt very alone. I mean, more alone than I'd ever been in my life. And it was weird because I was holding the most emotional, intimate, personal thing in my hands that I'd ever had. And I needed more support than I ever had. And I had absolutely no idea where to find it. And so I made some missteps. I joined a writers organization that really wasn't even my genre. I wanted to join other ones, but then they cost money, but I wasn't even making any money yet. So it was all very confusing. And so, but then eventually, by just sticking to it, honestly, by sticking to it, by writing, by taking chances and sending tweets. Twitter was big. Sending Twitter tweets to people, then I kind of started having these fledgling relationships, and I think over time I've just gotten braver about reaching out to people and saying, hey, your work influences me, or I saw this interview and I thought it was great, or, whatever. And then the relationships sort of grow from there.
You hit on some amazing topics, but I'm going to stop for 1 second and say hello to Miss Julia.
Hi. Sorry for being really late to the party. I actually found you guys like a real person would on Google Hangouts, and I was tempted to just sit there and watch, but I guess that's not allowed. So, hello everybody. I'm sorry for being late. Trying to take a cab through Midtown when you're already late ends up inevitably meaning that you get stuck in traffic. So these poor guys were getting text messages from me being like, I'm not moving. I'm not moving.
Why don't you tell us who you are and what you write and what you're drinking?
I suppose those are important things. I am Julia Kelly. I write historical and contemporary romance under that name, and I also write as Vivian Thorne when I'm feeling a little saucier and decide to write some Victorian erotic serial romance. And I'm drinking Glenfiddich, and I'm very happy about it. It's been a very long day. So, we're gonna talk about friends and people and stuff apparently, and I'm gonna have my whiskey, and I'll be a very happy lady sitting on the couch. So I'm glad I made it.
We're glad you made it. It's never a show without you.
Oh, thank you. So yes, no, I'm very excited. So I jumped in right as everybody was starting, I think, to talk about kind of why it was important to find a writing support network, and I'm very excited to hear this. So.
More specifically, I'd asked, did you fall into your writing group, or did you have to search for it?
Got it. Okay, now I know where I am. I'm oriented. I have my scotch. We're all good.
Your turn, Mary Chris. Go for it.
It's sort of very much the same. I think I fell into a writing group. I don't know that I realized that I needed one at first, or I think for me, I kind of fell into being a writer. I started out taking a class and just trying it out and thinking, hey, maybe this is a fun creative outlet that I'll enjoy. And so I just kind of kept falling from there, if that makes sense. Like, I fell into this idea of I'm a writer, and then you start to realize, oh, maybe it would be helpful if I knew some other writers who kind of get this particular brand of crazy, where I have like stories in my head and things that I want to do. So I did start out in a writing class, but it was a like multi-genre writing class where people were writing mystery and horror, and in fact, it seemed like there was a lot of that, and I was like the person bringing in sort of the story about a relationship and kind of this funny scene at a wedding where someone got drunk, and so that wasn't my people in some way. I mean, they were great, they were writers, but looking to
Did they give you bad advice too, like what you need is more violence or something like that?
Yeah, right. They didn't do too badly, but it is, and it actually ended up shaping my book. But somebody did think my character was an alcoholic, and I was like, whoa, yeah, no, not where I'm going with that. Which of course makes you question your own drinking, because you're like, oh, really?
I do that regularly.
Mary Chris met me at the time when I was the same age as her first character, and she actually asked me if this seemed like a normal amount of drinking. I was like, I didn't even notice the drinking.
Yes, and that book was like done and out and published when I met you, so I was still thinking about it. I was like, yes, I have someone who's the age of my character. I can finally, once and for all, be like, this is normal, right? Like, you didn't notice it, right?
Totally normal.
Yes.
I can verify that.
Yeah.
And that was at the stage when we were all kind of feeling each other out still. And we get this email from Mary Chris saying, so I have another book. And I was, looking to see if you guys might want to read it. And here's one of the things I'm really concerned about. So in the first book, there was some drinking.
Bring it.
The whole time I'm reading it, I'm going, I might be an alcoholic if this is a problem. That's all I do.
Yes.
I have a drink at dinner. I'm sorry.
Yep.
But that's all part of that process of finding your people and feeling them out. And okay, here's this thing that's come up, and I don't think it's a problem. I am interested to see what you think when you read this thing that I wrote. And that feedback kind of lets you know either they can give you constructive feedback even though they come from a different genre or background, or they're super judgmental and these are not your people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here, questions. So, let's see. One of the things that I was interested in, what do you do when you find someone who doesn't fit with you guys and you don't necessarily want to work with them? How do you finagle that social situation and moving beyond a relationship that's not working?
It's tough. I mean, it's something that everybody runs into. So it's a little like being in high school and maybe being at new high school for the first time, right? So you meet a whole bunch of people and people are friendly and all of that up front, and that's great. But it's really the time that you spend with people that you start to learn who you really gel with and who you don't. And I think it's completely fine if you are closer with some people than others. That's going to happen naturally. I think that the thing that you have to be careful with in the writing world is it is a professional community, and it is a world of people who know each other and know each other through a few degrees of separation. And so I think trying to be as polite as possible, not burning somebody and burning bridges is really important. But when it's one of those situations where relationships evolve, and I think that kind of if you're one of those people who can sit there and say, look, it's not personal, but I think that this may be something where I let this person go. Everybody's busy, and it happens, and it happens naturally. And unfortunately, I wish that everybody in the writing community got along as well as, I do with my closest friends, but my closest friends wouldn't be my closest friends if everybody was all if the chemistry was all there for every single person. So I think, you feel out your relationships with people, and it's part of the learning process. It's like having a beta reader, or like having a critique partner or an editor or somebody that you're working with for a consistent and long period of time. You get to know each other better and better as you go through the process of spending more time around each other. And you kind of learn some people are going to be more healthy for you than others, which I think is completely valid. And some people you're just going to get along with better than others. And some people may think that, the three of us are raging alcoholics and don't want anything to do with us.
We started a show called First Draft.
I know, it's a show called First Draft, and everybody drinks on it, except for last month, nobody drank pumpkin beer except poor Mary Chris. So there's just it's like any other relationship. You do have to work at it, and it does have to take time to evolve, and it doesn't always stay stagnant. And I actually think it's a positive thing that your relationships with other writers grow, because hopefully you all are growing, maybe not at the same rate, maybe not all together, but you're all moving in a positive direction. So that's the hope, at least.
Definitely. Does anybody else have anything they want to jump in and say?
I do. Is it okay, Margaret?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I cannot, I have to say this, I cannot get over how together Julia is, considering she just got off work. Like that is, I'm like astounded. I could not.
I was still in bossing people around mode, so I'm like, whatever.
And her hair, I mean, you look gorgeous. It's so rare that someone looks like their profile photo and then you do. It's hard for me to like you. Okay. So anyway, what I was going to say is that I think that there's this, and you guys might have heard this before, but it's the stages of a group, and it goes form, storm, norm, perform. So you get together, you think, oh, we're going to be a great group. And then storm. Then you have fights because things didn't go the way that you thought, your expectations are too high or out of link, and then you create your norms, and then you can behave effectively. And I found that is true in so many things, in relationships, in critique partners, and all kinds of stuff. So I think that if you found a critique partner that you like their writing and they like your writing and you like them enough and they like you enough and everything's going fine, but then it's like you have miscommunication, the instinct is to bolt. But if you can work through it and figure it out, and I had this with my own agent. With my agent, I was like, I'm not actually from the South, but I'm a very sensitive person. And she is from New Jersey, and she is not a sensitive person. And we were like, we had some problems. I'm like, I'm fine with criticism. Give it to me. But you got to give me something else. Like, I know you can do this, or, I really like this other part, even though this other part was crap. I don't know if I can curse on this. So
go for it. I swear all the time.
Probably merit an explicit rating. Nobody's practiced with it yet.
So I think that sometimes it clicks right off the bat. I have one critique partner like that. It clicked right off the bat. It just, we just were like soulmates. But then I've a couple others that include my agent where we stormed, dude. I mean, like serious storming, tears, like angst. And then we got through it. I'm like, okay, I understand her better. She understands me better, and now we can like perform or whatever. But I also think that if a critique relationship isn't working, then like get out, dude. You know what I mean? Like do the best you can to like sum it up quickly and move on. Because I've had that before too, where I knew someone, I thought they were really smart and very interesting in person, and they were like, "Would you like to, read for each other?" And I'm thinking, dude, you went to Cornell, absolutely. And then I read their work, and it's just not ready. I mean, I'm not anyone. Oh my gosh, my son is behind me trying to peek in.
That's okay.
I just saw him in the reflection of the window. But anyway, there were other people, and they come to me, and it's just not ready. You know what I mean? Like it needs a lot more work. And then I mean, you do have to be kind of a jerk. I mean, you do sort of, but you want to make it nice because you can't waste your time, because your time is the most valuable thing that you have. And so I tried to, at that point, say, this is how much I read, this is my feedback, and I think you can carry that through the novel, and then I just get out. And I've done that a few times, and it worked. And they were like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, is that my son? Bishop,
yeah.
out.
Making a cameo.
Undermining me.
We have special surprise guests frequently on this show, so it's totally fine.
Pets, children, yeah.
Good.
Once. Yes.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
We almost lost Lexi there for an episode.
Yes.
For Storm, yeah.
We roll with the punches on this show.
Definitely.
Good.
Definitely.
Thank you. I need it.
Mary Chris, do you have anything to add?
I really don't think I do. I think they both covered it. But I do think recognizing that sometimes you can support people in other ways than being a critique partner, because I so agree with what Peggy said. Once you out yourself as a writer, everybody who's ever wanted to be a writer kind of wants you to read their stuff. Yeah. And so you do have to have some boundaries there. But I think when you're looking at developing a support group and connections, recognizing that you can do that in ways other than reading people's work. So, just kind of spending time offering encouragement or helping people connect with other resources or other writers, if you know of critique groups in your area, making that recommendation. So I think, anytime you're kind of having to say, and then I think also just like being really honest and kind and just saying like, look, it's not you. Like, I just really physically don't have time to read this. And I think my favorite way to do that is say to read it and give it what it deserves, like to really give it the time that your hard work deserves. No, it's totally true. So, being really honest about that and try to help them maybe connect with other people, but sort of recognizing that there's ways that you can support people and help them other than reading, because that is something you need, I feel like, a plan for.
Yeah, so I want to...
nice.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I would say 90 to 95% of the relationships that I have in the romance writing community and the writing community at large are not critique based. They are people that I speak to and email with and call and text and all of those things, and I'm happy to support, whether it's, emotionally or just kind of being that other writer reaching out and having a connection with somebody because I genuinely like the person or, the work or whatever it is, or promoting it on, social media and helping them do some of the promotional lift, whatever it is. Most of the stuff that I do, I read for very few people because I write a lot also, and I think all of us are in that boat where you have limited time. And at this point, I have people that I've read for enough that I've built a relationship with them, and I kind of can understand faster where they're coming from and what is good work for them and for what they're trying to do, as opposed to having to build from the ground up. And I think it's more beneficial probably for anybody that I read for as well, that I'm not scrambling halfway through a book being like, oh, now I think I finally see what this person's all about. But no, you know, a lot of it is reaching out and just having that connection. And I, you know, just really quickly, I have a friend who doesn't write in the genre, and he is really, I can tell, just craving connection with other writers. And we found each other relatively recently, and it was one of those things where, you know, when you get two writers who haven't seen other writers for a long time in a room together, it was just like immediate, like, tell me everything. What are you doing? You know, are you in KDP? Are you in, you know, what do you do? And it just continues and builds and builds and builds. And I can tell he doesn't have that writer community around him. And so he's seeking that out right now. He's kind of going through what I went through, you know, 3-4 years ago when I first went to RWA, looking for that community. And watching somebody go through it on this side from this perspective now, you can tell it's one of those things that I don't even think about anymore. I just know that I have writers, and I know I have people that I can communicate with and contact and have that connection with, and it's an incredibly valuable thing. Again, not just because of what it can do for you, you know, kind of career practicality wise.
I agree completely. I really do. I'm sorry, Chris, did I cut you off? Oh, okay. You're big on my screen, so I was like, oh, it's not my time to talk. I agree completely. When you said, Julia, about 90% of your writer friends are not critique partners, I agree completely. I have like, I mean, a handful, or less than a handful of like serious critique partners that I use regularly. Really, I depend on two, and then I have the other ones to kind of make sure I've nailed it. And but if they, you know, that's not really enough. And I think that's, the premise of this session tonight is really like your support overall. And RWA, I don't write romance specifically, but categorically, but I have strong romantic elements in my book. It's absolutely, in the 4 novels I've written, absolutely like a major theme going through. So technically I could get kicked out of RWA, but I love them, and until they kick me out, I'm still in it, because there is so much camaraderie, so much craft, so much education. And so I would encourage anybody that's looking for support systems to start with a free organization like RWA, or something not very expensive like a local organization. Mary Chris and I are both part of James River Writers, and that's an incredible organization for our geographical area. So I would look both in your genre, RWA, say, or there's thriller one too. I don't know the others. There's many. Something in your local area, because those people are going to be your friends, and they're going to help you promote your books and meet you for Kathy Fisher. Get out!
I saw it up, and I was just like, do.
I'm not going to blow his cover.
Okay, I have 4 children, and only one of them has a reason to come back through here 3 times. Okay, that's so. And then the other thing I would say. Oh, am I still there? Okay. So genre, geographic, and then online. So, for example, Writer Unboxed is one, Women Writers Women's Books. Like, there's other non-genre specific online sites that have become communities, and you can reach Spain and Portugal and Florida in the same post, and those people actually become your support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's one of the things, when I went and spoke to my son's class a couple years ago, that was one of the things I brought up, was that my community, because of the digital world we live in these days, is international. And it is just so cool. And
so cool.
You largely just covered my next question, which is, where do you find... No, that's awesome. Great. I'm going to let you host now. But where do you find these people? And one of the big ones for me is conferences, because I met Julie and Mary Chris at Romance Writers of America conference a couple of years ago in Atlanta, and they have been the core of the foundation of the group that I have eventually grown. And meeting you just a couple weeks ago at James River Writers, I wanted to just, sell everything and move to Richmond because you guys have such a cool conference up there.
Yeah, it's really strange how that happens whenever we go to Richmond, right?
Yes.
It's because we're awesome.
I'm making water.
I think we're going to kick the people out of your upstairs, and we're just moving in. Yes, Julia?
Yeah, works for me. I love Mary Chris's apartment, so if it's anything like that, I'm happy.
I would be super happy to have you.
I would too.
Okay.
Good, we like it.
We're just creating a writers' commune in Richmond. I was going to say Russia, which makes no sense, but whatever.
It's suburban.
As long as Julia promises to bake delicious things.
Done.
Cranberry bread, yeah.
No problem.
Look
Oh
at
God,
Peggy.
it's getting to be that season, isn't
Well,
it?
at
Anyway,
the
sidetrack.
James River Writers, one of our other writer friends, Leah Ferguson, who you guys probably met, not Julia, but the other two, and she came to my house. She stayed at my house while she was here, and she brought baked goods.
Oh, so nice.
Nice.
So
Anything with streusel topping.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Very nice.
get you on that one.
So beyond finding a conference to attend, maybe you're super introverted, super shy. Let's just imagine, because we're writers and we're not introverted or shy or anything.
Yeah, right.
Not at all.
Where else can you start building a network of people, or take what you've already started growing and start to expand it? Who wants to start?
Well, can I jump back to conferences for just 1 second?
Go for it.
I just want to say that I really like going to genre-specific conferences. I think is really important. And much like Peggy was saying, I write sort of tangentially in romance, but prior to that, I had only been to conferences and workshops that were just like multi-genre, including nonfiction. And so I remember walking into RWA and thinking, wow, like everyone here writes fiction. Everyone writes something with some sort of romantic element, and usually some kind of happy or hopeful ending. And it was very freeing to me to be among kind of just like not only writers, but very like writers. And I'm not saying you don't want all of that, because I think you actually do want some input from other genres or nonfiction writers or, any kind of creatives, I think can be good support. But I think it is important to also do those genre-specific things. And then I know, I started with RWA, and then it was really important to me from there to find kind of an even smaller community of specifically women's fiction writers. The second time I attended RWA, I came away thinking, this is amazing, but I also want just like those people who write kind of exactly what I write. And where do I find those? And so I think it is important to, when you're looking for those conferences and you're really wanting to make connections, looking for things that are specific to what you write.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm still looking for a community of historical writers, and I found a couple people here and there, and I'm looking for something that gels a little bit more. So actually, if anybody has any recommendations, I know there are a couple of online chapters that I have been looking at and need to look more into. But yeah, I think that a lot of it is somebody who speaks the language that you speak, because just being a writer kind of sets you off from a lot of other people in terms of once you get down to the nitty-gritty, everybody understands you typing on your laptop. Not everybody understands craft and career and marketing and all of those things that, I can literally text, any of my friends and say, I am having trouble with X, Y, or Z. Can you walk me through it? The other day, like 3 months ago, I was I was having trouble wrapping up the end of the book, and I sent Laura Von Holt, who has been on this show before, a message, and I said, what do you think about the ending of this and making it this way? And she picked up the phone and she called me and she talked the whole thing out with me for about 45 minutes, and that became my ending. And just having somebody who I could say, I need X, Y, and Z to happen in order to make this hero and this heroine meet in a place where they both could potentially be happy for the rest of their lives. They need to be those types of characters that can be together, and understanding how structurally you needed to do that was really helpful. So I think that, a lot of it, actually a lot of what you look for in conferences makes a lot of sense with the other areas. So, online is a huge one. It sounds silly, but relationships can spring out of ridiculously silly things. Like, I think the first time I tweeted with one of the women who does the anthology with Alexis and me, I think I tweeted about boots and leggings in Dallas with her. Like it was response
This must
to
be
somebody's.
Alexandra.
It was Alexandra, and it was response off of somebody's tweet, and I was responding to something, and we started talking about clothes, and sure enough, you know, suddenly this woman is a very large part of my life and a very important part of my life, and you know, a good friend. And so it's weird how those little connections can happen. And I think the great thing about being online is if you are introverted, if you are busy, if you live in another part of the world, all of those things that maybe keep you disconnected from physically seeing people, that can be a very easy way into a community as well. And there's a very real thing, which is being online friends with somebody and not having met before. Sounds weird to a lot of people, but I think it's starting to sound less and less weird as, you know, obviously connections become stronger online and the world becomes more and more digital. But it's a real thing. You know, you go to a conference and you think to yourself, I have a dozen people who I haven't met before, but I'm thrilled to see because I talk to them every single day. So I think that's a big part of the community.
I could not agree more with every single thing that you said. I have a critique partner that I was looking for a critique partner, and so I took a workshop as a part of my. I'm hearing like weird things in my ears. I took a workshop as part of a writers association that I was in, and I knew I was looking for a critique partner. That was one of the reasons I did it, and you can see other people's work. And so there was this person, and I thought that they were the best in the group. Sorry, it's weird. It's like I can hear all this stuff. So anyway, so I went to that person afterward and was like, look, you've seen my work. I've seen yours. I really thought you were the best in the group. Would you like to do this? And he was like, that's great. Let's do it. And we talk like every day, and we've never met. And then by the way, he's gay. I'm married. It's not anything. but he's married too. But we talk every day. And one time he said something. I forget what it was. I forget how it came up. But he said, when you write me your emails and messages, I hear them in your voice. And my husband thought that was hysterical because he didn't know my voice. He'd never met me in person. But he heard them in my voice. And I swear to God, we Skyped for the first time like a few months in. And when he started talking, it was exactly the voice that I've been hearing in my head that that I thought he had. I think you pick up a lot on these like digital relationships. And then we've met in person, and that absolutely gave like different degrees of relationship, whatever. But I agree completely about that. Those people that you reach out to, those relationships that you have that you may not even have met in person, they could be your most significant ones. Mm-hmm. But I also think they can change, and I think that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes you will have this like going gangbusters with someone, and or a group, and you're getting along really well, and they're giving you what you need, and everything's great, and then just sort of gradually, or even all of a sudden, it's not working anymore. It's like kind of like when you're dating someone and your texts don't get answered, right? And I think that happens, and it's okay because one or the other of you have grown. You'll probably take turns being the one that's growing and one's not, or who knows, maybe their dog got the flu. I mean, who knows? But it's important that doesn't get in the way of your journey, of your like creativity, mm-hmm. and go to someone else or go in or whatever. But I'm really introverted too, and online stuff has been really good for me, and I'm not as comfortable like with chit chat. Like chit chat basically panics me.
Yes.
But right? Okay, am I not the only one? Okay, good.
No, you're not the only one.
But I can talk about craft. And
yes.
That is one way that I would say to other introverted writers, talk about craft, talk about books, talk about something like tactile and physical, and because the person you talk to is probably an introvert too.
Mm-hmm. That's how I kind of knew the first time that I was finally finding the right people was craft was one of the things it was still a language barrier, and Am I the only person who cares about sentence structure and character development
Yeah.
here? What's going on? And then I went to RWA and I met these lovely ladies, and all of a sudden we were speaking the same language. And
Yeah.
okay, I'm finally in the right place, and you can finally start looking around. And you're right. You have to speak the language that you want to be speaking.
Yes.
This is not an area to be
Yes.
faking it until you make it.
Yeah. You said it better than I did, but that's what I meant.
Teamwork, baby.
And then within that, you can create these little niches and relationships. There's a group of women who I've only done it once, but I'm thrilled that this thing exists. They tweet an episode of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries every Saturday at 10 p.m. and I love the show, and I've met a whole bunch of them who I know only kind of on the periphery through reputation through other people, and I've actually spoken to them now, and it's one of those things that popped up. And even something as seemingly silly as live tweeting an episode of an Australian television show, which is brilliant and you should watch it.
I need to watch that.
It's really good. That's a connection there. So it doesn't, yes, the craft, yes, the marketing, sales, you can speak the language, but there are other ways to kind of develop and get to know people and those relationships that, it's whatever works. It's whatever ends up working for you and whatever your comfort level is. I know that there are people, we're big advocates of conferences. There are people who are never going to go to a conference, whether it's the expense or the fear or just the general lack of interest in going, and that's fine and that's valid. My hope is that everybody just makes a connection somewhere so that you have another writer, whether it's one writer, whether it's 20 writers, whatever it ends up being, because I do think that especially when you get into deadline mode or you get into that place in your novel and everybody has them where you start to sit there and think this thing is never going to be done, it helps to have somebody to reach out and they'll smack you upside the head and say, no, obviously this novel's going to get done and obviously it's hard, but you're better than that. Like, come on.
I believe you're referring to the burn the novel phase.
Burn the novel. Burn it to the ground.
You guys are very violent with your novel.
Oh, I once FaceTimed or Google Hangout, whatever.
Google Hangout.
Yeah, with Lexi, and the whole thing was just hysterical laughing and me saying, "I'm gonna burn it, Lexi. I'm gonna burn it to the ground. I'm throwing this book out the window and I'm lighting it on fire."
Oh, see, I thought you were talking about the time that we Google hung out because I was burning my manuscript.
Those were remarkably close together, if I remember correctly, those incidents.
There was a lot of hold me down because this thing's going on fire right now.
Notice nobody's actually threatening to delete the thing. Nobody would do that.
Right.
God forbid you actually destroy it.
I don't
That's
ever
a really good
doing
point.
that.
I don't ever print mine, so maybe that's why I don't have the desire to burn them. Like, I just don't even give myself the thought that I could potentially burn it because it's on my computer, which clearly I'm not going to burn.
Right.
But do you ever think, Mary Chris, do you ever think about quitting?
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
All the time, right?
Yes.
I think about quitting, I think like every day. I really do.
It would be easier. I mean, it would be so much
I
easier
don't
if you...
think it will get ever easier for me. I mean, this is my 4th novel. I don't think it's going to get easier. I think
Quitting would be easier, but why would you quit? You love it.
Yeah, quitting would be
way.
easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
those
Definitely.
things that I remind myself of that I'm not 100% sure of, but somehow I don't quit. I don't know I don't quit, but I don't quit, so I must be sick.
This is the definition of crazy, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Or writer.
Or writer, yes. I think I don't quit because that when there are highs, they're so high.
It's so high.
Yes.
And I think that's really it. And I think that's where having a community that can remind you of that fact is helpful when you're. But yeah, no, I don't want to burn things, but I do think about quitting like pretty much on the daily.
I think one of the reasons. I think I want to go to this because we're talking a lot about writing, but if you want to be traditionally published, there is so much rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're self-published,
Mm-hmm.
then there is a lot of negative reviews, or traditional too. But I'm saying you're getting rejections no matter which way you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't make it through. I mean, I'm still not sure if I'm going to survive it, but I wouldn't make it through the rejections and all of that stuff if it weren't for my support people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I'm going to tell this one really quick story, which Mary Chris I think already knows, but I I had I had spent 2 years on a story. It was I mean, it was so. I still think it was the most difficult, ambitious thing that I've ever written. And every day that I was writing, I was terrified that I was like, how am I going to pull this thing off? How am I going to pull this thing off? I don't even know how this is going to go. I'm totally out of my element here. But I kept going and going, going, and then somehow I did. And I don't know how it all worked, but it worked like this beautiful, perfect little matrix, and I was so proud of it. And I gave it to my beta readers. I had done like chapter by chapter. I'd given it to a couple, most like my mom and sister. And then when I was done, the whole thing, I gave it to my beta readers. Now at this point, I was agented, I was connected. These were the most talented and successful beta readers that I'd ever had access to. And to a person, they loved it. They freaked out. One of them said, I can't talk about this over email. Can we meet for coffee? And I thought, oh, God, here we go. This is going to be really, really bad. You know what I mean? Like what do you get, the shoe drops, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The whole house is going to drop on my head. And we meet for coffee, and she starts crying. And I'm like, oh, my God. I made her cry. This is so horrible. And she's like, I loved it so much. This meant so much to me, blah, blah. She was like, you tapped into this, that, the other thing. Okay. I'm like, I'm freaking out. Like, oh, my gosh. I swear to God, I've been waiting to hear back from my agent for weeks. And now I'm literally at the coffee shop table with my beta reader, who is multi-published literary fiction author, and the phone rings, or I get a text message from my agent, and she says, can we talk today? I'm like, I start shaking so badly, like this, like I couldn't have like signed a check. And so I'm like, yes, okay. So I have my little kid with me, my little youngest daughter with me, and I'm like, I need to do something with her. So I'm like, I will drive to the nearest playground so she can do that, and I can talk to the agent. So I do. And, of course, the dog doesn't want to play on the playground equipment. She just wants to cling to my leg, which was oh so nice. As my agent told me that my book sucked and was never, ever going to sell. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was so taken aback. During the time, I guess, and when I sent it to her, I was very humble about it. But then when I kept getting all these like good reviews, I was thinking like, maybe, right? I mean, your imagination, maybe. That I kind of lost track of all my humility and the fact that I had taken all these chances. So my agent says, not only can't I sell this, neither can anyone else. I'm like, oh wow. My gosh. I lost my, like, ability to speak, and all I could get out really was, I thought it was the best thing I'd ever written. And she said, it is. It still won't sell. Like,
that's the harsh reality of having an
my God, right? Yeah. So I'm freaking out. I have since then done research, found out she's right. What I wrote wasn't going to sell. I didn't know that. Okay, I'm learning. We're all learning, right?
Yes.
So, but there was another author, Lydia Nestor, if anyone knows her. She is incredible, award-winning. She was up for a National Book Award, National Book Award finalist a couple years ago. She's incredibly wonderful and beautiful and kind. And I Facebook messaged her about a band that I was watching that was on TV, and I was like, oh, Lydia, I think you'd like this band. They're on TV. And then, like you do with all your heroes, I poured out my heart and humiliation. What was I thinking? But Lydia came back to me and said, this is how it goes. And those words put me back together, because I was so humiliated. I thought that, well, then I'm never going to make anything. I'm never going to be anything, because nobody that's failed this badly is going to make anything of themselves. And that author connection, and I really only met her at a writer's conference. I mean, she was a panelist, and I was a nobody, but I just thought she was awesome. And I reached out to her, and we kind of created like a friendship, and then we became a real friendship. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, and it was another author that put me back together. And so I would say to people, when you need support, reach out to people who know what you've been through. Because your friends, it really, really, really surprised me how few of my friends ask me how my writing is going. Do you guys have that experience?
Yeah,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time.
Isn't it weird?
Or they do, but really, I mean, it's kind of like saying, "How's your day going?" Like they don't. What they want you to say is, "Oh, great."
Yes.
Like they might ask, but they're not. If you tell them, well, I got 5 negative reviews and no one's buying my book, my Amazon ratings are down, they'll be like, "Oh,
Right.
did you have some lunch?" I mean, they would
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful.
No.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not like you're looking for a shoulder to cry on necessarily in terms of like the sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and sitting there and like never. Sometimes what you do need is you need somebody who's going to be like, all right, you get your pity party, but then you have to pick yourself back up again and you have to figure it out because you're a working author and this is how it goes and you have to keep writing because I know that that's what you want to do, and that's really tough. But I will say, the little gestures sometimes make the biggest difference. One of my college friends who's not a writer, she's getting her PhD in psychology right now, and is going to defend in February. I'm very proud of her. She asked me for my mailing address last week and wanted to make sure that she had it right. I completely forgot about it because I was so deep down the deadline rabbit hole that, I turned my book in this weekend. I was done, whatever. I got home yesterday and there was a shoebox waiting for me on my mailbox, and I looked at the address, and I know her handwriting immediately. We were freshman college roommates, and I went upstairs and I opened the box, and in the shoebox she had packed cookies that she had made, hot chocolate, facial masks, and a CD with writing concentration stuff that she uses while she's writing her dissertation right now. This is what her mother used to do for us freshman year when we were in the middle of exam time.
Wow.
And at midterms. So her mother would send these famous shoe boxes, and they would either be filled with bars or they would be filled with cookies and nothing else, like maybe a note. But, this is what she used to do. And so sometimes it was so touching. We actually ended up talking for about an hour and a half yesterday and catching up and all those things. But it was just that kind of nice moment of, even though a lot of times I have to go within the writing community to find the people who do know, that it means a lot when you reach out and you say something like, hey, I know that you've got something coming up. How are you doing? What's going on? Do you need to vent? Anything like that. There are also good people and good friends who can make that difference kind of just by doing a little tiny reach out and, something like that. I hadn't talked to her about this book since Labor Day. I was stunned, completely stunned that she had remembered and gone to the effort to do that. And she did tell me that part of it was procrastination because she was trying to avoid writing her own dissertation. But it counts. So.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Totally counts.
Totally. And I think we don't want to discount, yes, writers are going to get it in a different way. Like they're going to get what rejection feels like. They're going to, get the business side of things. But I do love what you said. And you can have super supportive people in your life who are not writers. I'm thinking of a coworker I have who, and sometimes they have really good perspective for you, because one time I have a coworker who's always super curious about what's going on with my writing life, and is not that person who, when I tell her something, will be like, oh, like I don't know how to respond, probably because she's a counselor by trade. So there's something here with these. But she'll really listen and is really genuinely interested. But one day I just mentioned something casually about my blog, and something like having 200 views in a month or something, which I actually don't consider a lot. I mean, I would love to have more than that.
I think that's a lot.
well, that was her reaction. She was like 200 people read your blog, and I was like, yeah. But you hear marketing statistics, and they're like, that's not enough. And so sometimes it's really great perspective to have someone who isn't hearing all of that fed into them all the time. Because you know what? It is awesome that 200 people, it's awesome that anybody other than my parents and my husband read my blog, honestly. Yeah. People from other countries read it. That's amazing. But I lose sight of that. So sometimes it does take that person who is on the outside looking in to say, that's incredible. I can't imagine that. So
I always love the perspective you get from the friend who's like, wait, no. you wrote a book. So
Right.
what? And then you published the book? Like, what?
And people are reading it? What is going on?
Like, people send you emails about it? What? Yeah.
Because you're sitting here going, oh my God, I fell down in the rankings this month and I'm going to die a horrible literary death where no one has ever heard of me. And they're like, but you wrote a book. Like,
You can hold it. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So it's great to have that perspective. One of my favorite examples that was ever given to me, and I use it all the time, is circles. And your inner circle is your tightest circle, and then it moves out. And the people in your inner circle are the people who get you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one thing all the time. So I have an inner circle for my personal life. I have an inner circle for First Draft. They're two of the people sitting here. I have an inner circle for writing, and I have an inner circle for just being creative in general. Mm-hmm. And as you move out from the circle, you have different types of relationships. People who get you on craft, people who get you on marketing, people who get you on just that creative infusion, the shoulder to cry on, whatever. And the circles get bigger on what you allow into your life through those people. And so your relationships are going to evolve and change, and people will move through the circles at different times. So that's my help.
That's really lovely.
I agree completely, yeah.
You guys have actually, are you getting feedback, or is that just me?
No, I'm good.
No,
okay.
Good.
Awesome. You guys have actually answered almost all my questions. Does anybody have anything else they want to throw in on finding your people?
Oh, I did have one thing I thought of. We were talking about online community, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention NaNoWriMo that's going on, which is hilarious that I'm bringing it up because I've never done it.
So I love that the people who've actually done NaNoWriMo are like, right,
yeah. So if one of you that has done this could talk about it and how it can be a way to develop, meet some other writers, both in your area as well as online.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm in New York, so it's a little a lot.
A lot?
Yeah, so New York has a very, very active community of writers in NaNoWriMo. They're in fact, I know one of the municipal liaisons who's wonderful. Her name is Alexis Camp, and she's just she's one of those people who has just is the right type of person to reach out and just involve people, and she has the right personality, and she's just wonderful. And so it's a very, very supportive community, and the emails are wonderful and supportive. And literally, if you sign up for Nano right now and register a novel, even if you don't make your goal of writing 5,000 words and writing a short novel in a month, what you will get is you'll get basically emails and daily reassurance, and the Twitter handle is fantastic, and the NaNoWriMo sprints are a real thing, and people will jump on, and there have been people who've used the Nano hashtag asking research questions, asking about New York, and what you could afford for a certain type of job or a certain price apartment-wise, and I was just like, right, so
I've asked you this question.
10 minutes, because I will talk to you about why you are not going to be able to afford that in that neighborhood. But it's a group of people who are looking for that interaction again, and who are generous, and who really do want to help you, and who want to be involved. But as with all of this stuff, you do have to do a little bit of reach out. And it's not, I promise it's not scary. Like, people aren't going to jump down your computer at you if you tweet something, and it goes off into the ether, and you ask a question or something like that. But if you do have a question, if you do need a NaNoWriMo, word sprint or whatever to kind of get motivated if you're discouraged, that's a great community to start with, especially because they really are invested in getting you through writing that novel. And all you have to do is maintain some of those relationships when the month of November is over. And I know people who've met through the Nano program, and it's just, they're some of their closest relationships. So I really think that it's huge, and it's all about support. That is, NaNoWriMo is exclusively about supporting other writers.
It's a really positive community, and online NaNoWriMo was not technically an online event, but online events like that, they're a really great opportunity to search the hashtags and find community online. Yeah. My very first community was So You Think You Can Write, through that hashtag on Twitter, and hashtags have just evolved so much in the last 3 years. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're everywhere. So hashtags are a great way to find people writing what you're writing, doing events that you're doing, all that kind of lovely stuff. And writing a novel in a month in November is a great place to start.
I don't understand how people do it, because isn't that like, is there am I not coming across clearly?
No, you're good.
No, I don't understand it either.
Okay.
I don't do it.
I'm just laughing because that's like my pace during a regular day. So I just like, writing serials changes perspective really quickly.
Is it 2,000 words a day?
1,664.
Wow.
Oh.
That's really specific. I mean, that I could totally do. No, I'm kidding.
That was if you do it every day, but keep in mind that there's Thanksgiving this month.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. Like, I can write 1,600 words a day. I mean, it's a good solid day.
Yeah.
But there are Saturdays, Sundays, and soccer games, and ballet recitals, and Thanksgiving, and it's very confusing. I don't really get how people do it.
It's a whole nother conversation, but basically NaNoWriMo tells you this is your month to be selfish.
Yeah.
This is your month to tell people in your life this is important to me. And yes, it's got Thanksgiving, and yes, it's got Black Friday, and both of which I'm working, by the way. I just want everybody to know that. But you know,
does that mean you'll have Thanksgiving with me again?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, are we doing a Skype or a Google Chat Thanksgiving?
We should totally do that.
I think I missed it. I'm always with my family with no Wi-Fi. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but no, you know, it is the time when it's, again, another conversation.
I don't think it is, though. Actually, I think it's the same conversation.
It's the same conversation, but it's also about time management.
Well, okay, yeah. But I think I think it's people telling you, it's supporting you in saying that your choice to spend your time is balance.
Yeah, you're making a choice. You're making a choice about what your priorities are during that month. And your priority is getting, you know, X number of words out by the end of the month, 50,000 words out by the end of the month.
And I do think the support and the accountability is what's unique about it. Because I could say I was going to do that this month, but if I didn't tell anybody, I mean, let's be honest, even if I said I was going to do it this month, I wouldn't. Because it's Thanksgiving and it's registration at the university and I'm working like huge long days. Which Julia works really long days and like is totally writing novels. So anyway, we all have different paces. But yeah, anyway. But I think it is the support and knowing that like you're accountable to these other people who are kind of in it with you, right? Like I think that's where that comes in. It's like we're all, which is I think why it's where supportive relationships can develop, because it's like we're all in this crazy thing where we're writing a novel in one of the busier months of the year if you celebrate Thanksgiving. So I think it is about developing support in a really intense environment, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pushing yourself and knowing you're not alone doing that.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it helps to know you're not alone. I think that's how people get through it.
Yes.
Well, I think that's true. I'm sorry.
No, I was probably going to say what you're going to say, which is I think a lot of us come into this profession thinking that we're the black sheep or the redheaded stepchild or whatever. We're the crazy person who hears voices in our heads and wants to tell stories. And it isn't until we find our community that we realize we're totally normal.
Yep.
But it's really hard to find that community that you fit into.
I just want to say two quick things. When I went to the Writer Unboxed Unconference in November of last year, and I was very nervous. I mean, a week in a city, Salem, Massachusetts, I'd never been to, a week with a whole bunch of strangers. I was really nervous about it, and I showed up for the first event, and it was like a whole bunch of people all shoved into one, you know, like banquet hall, and this is my nightmare. I mean, my personal nightmare is a banquet hall, and I'm there, and the woman who's in charge, Therese Walsh, who's in charge of Writer Unboxed, gets up to the microphone and she said, with a small smile on her face, she said, "This is an experiment in putting 100 introverts in a room together for a week and see what happens." And when she said that, I was like, we all laughed and we all felt like, okay, it's going to be okay. No one's going to expect us to be somebody different or whatever. And that was really helpful. So I get that with like the camaraderie of NaNoWriMo. And the other thing is, this is silly, but I'm trying really hard to achieve balance in my life. My children are now all in elementary school. It's the first time. And
Solidarity.
I have, huge. And yet somehow I still, even though I have double the writing hours, still feel like I'm not being more productive. Like, I think I might have been more productive then, and I'm like totally confused by this fact. And even though so I also want to work out, which I have basically not done in 5 years. So I'm like, okay.
I did it this morning and I was not happy about it.
I plan to start tomorrow.
I want to start tomorrow every day. But I go to the Y because I live in the middle of nowhere, like horse country nowhere, and the only gym is the YMCA. So they had this contest. I don't know anything about it, but I go in, I click my little thing, and they say, "Are you part of the Win the iPad?" No, I don't actually want or need an iPad, but they said, "Are you here for the iPad?" I don't know what you're talking about, but if I worked out for 3 times a week every week in October, I was eligible to win an iPad. So I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the iPad. But I went every week but one. I went 3 times. One time I could only get there 2 times to my parents were here. But I went and it was because I had that silly thing, but it was a silly thing that held me accountable. And NaNoWriMo is not silly, but it's like your friends and people and public, like Mary Chris said, like public holding you accountable.
Yeah, it really is.
You're absolutely right. Well, we're hitting the hour mark on our show, so it's time to wrap things up. Does anybody have anything that they want to throw in before we say our goodbyes? All right, then we'll go around the room real quick, and we will say who we are. If we have anything to promo, now's the time to do it, and then we'll be done. You want to start us off, Mary Chris?
Sure. I've been hosting, so I'm not used to getting to start. Thanks for picking me. No. So you can find me at my website, marychrisescobar.com. If you happen to live in Virginia and near Fredericksburg, Virginia, I'm actually signing books this Saturday at Agora Downtown Coffee in Fredericksburg, and it's all the information on that is on my Facebook page and all that, so you can find it there. But I would love to meet you, talking about community. I would love to sip on a coffee with you and chat books. So if you do live in or around Fredericksburg, Virginia, and can get there, I'm there from 8:30 to 1. God knows how much coffee I'll have in that amount of time. So it might be a little scary come 1 o'clock, but I would love to see you. So yeah, that would be great. And also my book Never Ending Beginnings is on a promo right now at Kobo. It is a bargain book of the month for $2.99. And little tiny secret, it's also on sale everywhere else. Because feel free to pick that up for $2.99 anywhere, where ebooks are sold.
And our special guest, Peggy.
Oh, thank you. I've had so much fun, and I really thank you guys for inviting me to come. I'm very excited. I basically begged my way on to the show.
No, you did not.
Yeah. So I don't really have anything to promo, right? I'm writing away, but I am all around the place. I'm a book reviewer. I'm an essayist. I'm kind of all over the web. So if you look for me, Fink, Google Fink, and I'll show up in lots of places. And I hope you do. And thank you.
What was the last book that you had released, so that people can go and look for it?
Well, I'm not self-published, so I am working on my WIP with my agent now.
Okay, wonderful.
We've got some fabulous essays at Women's Writers, Women's Books, interviews with authors. Well, a couple of great essays about querying and keeping your spirits up as a writer, but also some great interviews with other authors. So
you are very sweet.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And we'll put all your goodies down in the details.
Yep.
Okay,
so that people can find you. And she was my lovely moderator at the James River Writers Conference.
Yeah. Looks familiar.
Right. It's role reversal.
I loved it. I had so much fun. The erotica panel was by far my favorite panel I've ever moderated.
She was like, okay, guys, I'm going to hit you hard now. And they were like, it's a good thing we write erotica.
Like, doesn't even faze you.
I got to explain some things in the audience. I felt like quite the expert just because I know you. Somebody was like, what is BDSM?
Oh, that's adorable.
I have to think about exactly what it means. Like, exactly what but I mean, I can tell you generally. Yeah, so it was super cute. I was like the little localized expert because
Mary Chris, the expert on erotica.
Right, which is
crazy,
right? So you know where the level was, right?
Person in the audience, if you are watching, read Tamsin Parker.
Oh, she got so many shout-outs from me. It's not even funny.
I'm reading. Oh my God, I'm reading Intimate Geography right now, and I'm actually dying.
It's intense. I can't, like, I can only read a few pages at a time.
Well, and that's the problem is I picked it up and I was like, I'll read 3 chapters, and I'm 150 pages in, having picked it up last night, and I was just like, I write erotic romance on the serial side, but I'm seeing Tamsin in a couple weekends, and so be jealous.
I'm totally jealous. And if you have a gin drink with her, I'm going to be even more jealous.
Yeah, that will happen. I'll make sure that happens. Maybe we'll Skype you in. But
if you guys want craving flight, don't talk to me.
So if you guys want some good BDSM erotica, check out Tamsin.
When you
Tamsin Jensen?
Tamsin Parker.
Tamsin Parker. Okay.
When you read the prequel that she just wrote to that series,
I'm scared. I haven't read it yet.
The first ones.
Just have a freezer section ready in your freezer so that you can shove it in there when you need a break. Just saying.
I'm actually a little scared. I don't know. I told her that I was scared, and she kind of nodded. And
yes. All right, Julia, tell us who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very tired. I'm Julie Kelly, and I'm promoting another person's stuff.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you have supportive author groups and friends. They just want to like keep talking about you.
Exactly. So, all right. So I am Julia Kelly, and I am also Vivian Thorne. Vivian Thorne's easy because that series is done. You can whatever. It's called The Lady Taken. Read it. It's about Victorian highwaymen, and they do bad things. Anyway, I just killed Lexi. So we don't have bylinks yet, but it will be in the show notes as soon as they go up. But Lexi and I are both in part of I believe we're doing it for free.
Yes, it's free.
Thank you.
Free.
Christmas/December/holiday anthology. We've put together some short stories with the other women who do One Week in Love, Audra North and Alexandra Houghton, and we have a nice pretty cover that's coming up and everything. That's coming up soon. So if you want some holiday romance, that's coming your way. And I'm actually really excited. I haven't read the other stories yet, so this is a big treat for me as well. I love holiday romance. So that is releasing, I want to say, the 17th of November.
Sounds accurate.
Yes, sounds accurate. We will briefly have a pre-order up if you feel like grabbing it off of this link. For free. And I also have a holiday novella that was part of One Week in Love, Seduction in the Snow, which is, it's not snow like here in New York. It's like 60 degrees outside. But Seduction in the Snow just went up in October. So if you want some skiing romance, that is for you.
Is that the one with the pancakes? Is that the one with the lemon ricotta pancakes?
Yeah, it is the one with the lemon ricotta pancakes.
Yum!
I need to start doing a recipe in the back of these books.
I just read another book with lemon ricotta pancakes in it. Jessica Topper's book that I just read has lemon ricotta pancakes.
Nice.
I was like, what is up with the lemon ricotta pancakes?
Well, what's really up is I'm secretly trying to get Elizabeth to do a blog post about one of my things, so I keep putting food in books. This was before I met her. I just kept putting food in books in hopes that I would get a blog post.
Well, you and Jessica should get together and reach out to her and be like, hey, lemon ricotta pancakes, 2 for 1.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Done. 2
Well, even worse than Julia's 60 degrees in New York, it's 90 in Florida, and I sweat. 90? The truck said 91 when I picked up the kids from school today, and I was sweating and on the way to the eye doctor. It was not pleasant. And so I will be releasing from 1 Week in Wyoming also. But Julia was just talking about my Undressing Kara in the next couple of weeks, so look for that. But other than that, I have Tempt. Hey, this is Theo. He's hot. This is the single volume 1, but the entire box set is now available for purchase, and the paperback it should be in my actual mailbox, like the actual postal service delivers it to me mailbox tomorrow, and hopefully it'll be beautiful, and I'll just say yes, and then it'll be available for sale everywhere, and you can buy that, and Theo can be yours.
I think your next title should be 90s in, where are you?
Florida.
90s in Florida.
There you go. I was just talking to Julie about naming conventions.
No, 90s in November.
90s in November.
There you go.
Good alliteration.
There you go. So Tempt is my current volume. You'll have pre-orders up for Burns soon. And then my new series under my new name, Alexa Sykes, may be out by Christmas. Maybe.
Is that women's fiction or that erotica romance too?
No, it's action adventure.
You are a woman of many talents.
She is.
So that's our show. How to find your people. Oh, you can find me at alexisandbooks.com. It's on my lower third right there. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Peggy, for joining us. You were an awesome guest. We'll have you back anytime. And we hope everybody has a good night.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Bye.